Back in the 1990s, it wasn't just America building incredibly fast cars. Europe was pushing the limits of speed as well. During that decade, some of the greatest performance machines ever made completely redefined what a sports car could be. Some held the world speed record, while others still hold records that no production car has managed to break to this day. If you're ready, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this. And let's get started. Number 11, 1994, Ferrari F355 Berlinetta. Here's a question. What makes a car perfect? Not just fast, but genuinely timelessly perfect. The Ferrari F355 Berlinetta came as close to answering that question as anything Ferrari had built since the original Daytona. When it arrived in 1994, the automotive press didn't just like it, they fell in love with it. Road and Track called it the finest Ferrari road car ever made. Car and Driver put it on their 10 best list. People who drove it came back talking differently, quieter, more thoughtful, like they'd experienced something they didn't quite have words for. The 3.5-liter V8 made 375 horsepower and revved to 8,500 revolutions per minute. That engine note, 5 valves per cylinder, screaming toward a red line that most cars never see, is one of the greatest sounds in automotive history. 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, 183 miles per hour, but the speed was almost beside the point. The F355 was about balance, about a car that felt exactly right at every speed, in every corner, in every moment. It wasn't trying to intimidate you, it was trying to connect with you, and it did. Number 10, 1996, Porsche 911 GT1. Porsche built this car because the rulebook said they had to, and what they were forced to create turned out to be one of the most extraordinary road cars of the entire decade. To compete at Le Mans in the GT1 class, regulations required manufacturers to build a street-legal version of their race car. Porsche took that requirement literally. The GT1 Strassen version, street version in German, was essentially a 24-hour endurance race car with a license plate bolted on. Only 2 were ever built for road use. 2, that 3.2-liter twin turbocharged flat 6 produced 544 horsepower in 1996 in a car that sat so low to the ground it nearly scraped driveways. 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. Top speed of 191 miles per hour. The race version went on to win Le Mans outright in 1998. The road version, if you could find one, lets you feel exactly what that meant on public streets. Today, a GT1 Strassen version is worth somewhere between $5 and $8 million. Number 9, 1999, Aston Martin Vantage Le Mans V600. Aston Martin almost didn't survive the 1990s. There were years in that decade when the company was barely keeping the lights on, surviving on small production runs, and the loyalty of buyers who simply refused to consider anything else. And then, right at the end of the decade, they built this. The Vantage Le Mans V600 was Aston's farewell to the old generation, a last hurrah for the hand-built, aluminum-bodied, supercharged V8 platform that had defined the brand for decades. They took the twin supercharged 5.3-liter V8, breathed on it until it made 600 horsepower, and put it in a car that looked like it had been sculpted by someone who genuinely believed they were building something important. They were right. 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. 200 miles per hour exactly. A number Aston Martin announced with quiet British pride. Only 40 were ever made, each one hand-assembled in Newport Pinel. The V600 didn't compete on lap times or 0 to 60 numbers. It competed on character, on the feeling that the person who built your car cared about it as much as you did. In 1999, that was rarer than you'd think. Number 8, 1991, Cizeta V16T. Most people have never heard of this car? That's not an exaggeration. Most people in the car world have never heard of this car, and that's genuinely one of the great automotive injustices of the 1990s. The Cizeta V16T was the brainchild of Claudio Zampoli, a former Lamborghini engineer who decided, on with the backing of musician Giorgio Moroder, the man who wrote the soundtrack to Scarface, that he was going to build the most extreme Italian supercar ever made. Not the fastest, not the most powerful, the most extreme. A 6.0-liter V16 engine, not 2 V8s bolted together, but a genuine 16-cylinder unit mounted transversely behind the cockpit produced 540 horsepower. The car ran to 240 4 miles per hour and made a sound that no other road car on Earth could replicate. The exterior was drawn by Marcello Gandini, the same designer responsible for the Lamborghini Countach and Miura. Only a handful were ever completed. Each one cost over $1 million in 1991 money. The Cizeta V16T is the supercar that history forgot, and it absolutely shouldn't have. Number 7. 1996 Lamborghini Diablo SVR. The original Diablo arrived in 1990 and immediately set the terms of the conversation. If you wanted the fastest, most aggressive, most visually confrontational supercar on the planet, here it was. The SVR, 6 years later, was what happened when Lamborghini decided the original wasn't extreme enough. SV stood for super veloce, super fast in Italian. The R was for racing. Together, those two letters meant that Lamborghini had taken everything that made the Diablo dangerous and amplified it. The 5.7-liter V12 produced 530 horsepower, top speed 205 miles per hour, 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. The SVR was built specifically for single-make racing, which meant the suspension, brakes, and aerodynamics were all tuned for a circuit, then somehow made street legal. The Diablo always looked like something that shouldn't be allowed on public roads. Scissor doors, a silhouette that sat roughly 6 inches off the ground, an engine note that violated noise ordinances just sitting in a parking lot. The SVR took all of that and removed whatever self-restraint the standard model had managed to maintain. Some cars want to be driven. The SVR demanded it. Number 6. 1999 Lamborghini Diablo GT. By 1999, the Diablo was running out of time. The Murcielago was coming, and everyone at Sant'Agata knew it. So for one final year, Lamborghini's engineers made a decision. No more compromises, no more civility, no more concessions to the buyer who might want to use air conditioning. The Diablo GT was the last, most extreme version of the platform. A car built by engineers who knew the chapter was closing and wanted to end it at maximum volume. The engine grew to 6.0 liters and 575 horsepower. The body shed unnecessary weight. The rear wing was enormous and functional. The interior was stripped to essentials. Even the air conditioning was deleted. Too heavy, not necessary. 210 miles per hour, 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. Only 80 were ever built, all of them in 1999, all of them in that particular shade of burnt orange that Lamborghini called a Rancho Atlas. The Diablo GT is one of those cars that exists outside of normal automotive categories. It wasn't a road car that could go on a track. It was a track car that could just barely go on a road, and the people who bought one knew exactly the difference. Number 5. 1996 RUF CTR2. If you know about the RUF CTR, the original Yellowbird, then you know what happened when a German company took a Porsche 911 and turned it into something that terrified professional racing drivers on the Nürburgring. The 1987 footage of the Yellowbird flat out through Flogheim Corner is still being watched today by people who can't quite believe what they're seeing. The CTR2, 9 years later, took that philosophy and made it modern. RUF built their own chassis, not a Porsche modification, but a RF engineered platform, and dropped a twin turbocharged 3.6-liter flat 6 into it, producing 520 horsepower. The result was a car that looked from a distance like a modified 911. Up close, it was something altogether different. 211 miles per hour, 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. The CTR2 matched Ferrari and Bugatti on the top speed chart while spending a fraction of what those manufacturers spent on development, because RUF didn't have the resources to do things the complicated way. Number 4. 1992 Jaguar XJ220. Few cars in history have caused as much controversy as the 1992 Jaguar XJ220, and almost none of that controversy was deserved. When Jaguar previewed the XJ220 concept in 1988, it promised a V12 engine and all-wheel drive. By the time the production car arrived in 1992, it had a twin turbocharged V6 and rear-wheel drive only. Buyers who had put down deposits sued to get their money back. The automotive press wrote about betrayal and disappointment. Here's what they missed. The production XJ220 was faster than the concept would ever have been. That 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, developed from Jaguar's Group C racing program, made 542 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, top speed 213 miles per hour, which made it the fastest production car in the world from 1992 until the McLaren F1 arrived. The fastest production car in the world, and people were complaining about the engine configuration. The XJ220 was 16 feet long, impossibly wide and looked like it had been drawn by someone who'd never been told to think about practicality. It held the world record for over a year. History has been kinder to it than its contemporaries were. Number 3. 1993 Bugatti EB110 SS. Here's a piece of trivia that might surprise you. Michael Schumacher owned one. So did Michael Jordan. So did the late Modena businessman Romano Artioli, who revived the Bugatti name after decades of silence and built the EB110 to prove that the greatest name in automotive history was back. The EB110 Supersport was the more extreme variant, lighter, more powerful, completely merciless. A 3.5-liter V12 with 4 turbochargers produced 603 horsepower and sent it through all 4 wheels via a 6-speed gearbox, 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. Top speed of 217 miles per hour, which in 1993 was a number that made Lamborghini and Ferrari engineers check their calculations twice. The EB110 SS was also one of the first production cars to use a carbon fiber chassis. In 1993, Bugatti was doing things that the rest of the industry wouldn't standardize for another decade. Only 32 Supersports were ever built. Bugatti went bankrupt shortly after, which means the EB110 SS exists as a brief, brilliant flash. Number 2. 1993 Jaguar XJ220S TWR. 3 letters that meant business in the 1990s. Tom Walkinshaw Racing, the company that had helped Jaguar win Le Mans in 1988, looked at the standard XJ220 and decided it wasn't fast enough. So they built their own version. The XJ220S was a collaboration between Jaguar and TWR that took everything extreme about the standard car and pushed it further. The engine was massaged to 680 horsepower. The body was modified with a fixed rear wing and revised aerodynamics. Weight was stripped wherever possible. The interior was gone entirely. This was a car you wore, not a car you sat in. 228 miles per hour. That number, recorded in independent testing, made the XJ220S the second fastest production car ever built at the time, trailing only the car that sits at number 1 on this list. 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds in a car that was never meant to be comfortable, never meant to be practical, and never apologized for either. Number 1. 1993 McLaren F1. I think most of you probably saw this one coming because the McLaren F1 was more than just a car. It wasn't only loved by car enthusiasts. Even people who weren't into cars knew exactly what it was. Even after more than 30 years, many people still consider it the greatest road car ever built. And for good reason. Designer Gordon Murray created the McLaren F1 with one simple goal: to build the perfect driver's car. Not the fastest, not the most powerful, and not the most technologically advanced, but the ultimate driving machine, powered by a naturally aspirated 6.1-liter BMW V12. It produced 618 horsepower. It could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3.2 seconds and reach an incredible top speed of 240 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest production cars the world had ever seen. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next one, and let me know your thoughts in the comments.